And I wanted to call this lunch poems with Patty. Oh my god, I look absolutely terrible, but it's okay. Maybe with time. Yes, I am at my work's parking lot. Um and I'm just gonna read a few poems from stuff that I wrote exactly a year ago. And if you see me making funny faces, it's because I haven't looked into these poems. Not really. So, and yesterday I was reading a poetry book, and one of the things that it said was like, you're not a good poem unless you are repulsed by your poetry, right? So, this one is untitled, and this first poem is untitled. And like I said, I wrote this a year ago. A year ago, I was in my I was on medical bed rest for hip replacement surgery, but that is another. That is another story. Okay, so here we go. I wrote letters to the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, searching for answers, searching for the truth. Wanted both oceans to align me with wisdom, with knowledge, with about everything that's happened to me and how I keep surviving. That poem needs a light. Let me do as I'm here is I will make my little marks as well. Okay. Okay, so my next poem is a little harsh, and I'm glad that there is nobody in the room right now. And this one is called Emily Pike, and I think I remember reading about this girl, this native girl who had his disappearance we didn't know about until later. And I was on medical bed rest, and I remember thinking, like, why does this always, like, when it's a disappearance of like a person that's not white, it just gets kind of pushed to the background, and we really don't know about it until weeks later, and there's no outrage, and by the time that happens, it's too late. But that's just my little rant before this. But I guess this is me just so mad about this. Kind of like why these disappearances are just swept under the rug. I don't know. Anyways, this one's called Emily Pike. Native girl found, murdered, and dismembered. Only took several days to make it onto CNN, to make it shareable on my social media feed, and people are at a loss as to why or how this happened, and I just shake my head with rage. The authorities and the government failed Emily, most likely because of who she was and where she came from. Most likely because she was another victim of the foster care system, where the workers are overworked and underpaid, where a native girl like Emily is more often than not overlooked and flies under the radar. And so her disappearance didn't raise sirens or outrage in a society that values the existence of others who are white than others who are not. What happened to Emily is not surprising. And people need to stop clutching their pearls at the devastation. People need to stop their question as to why or how this happened, and instead look in the mirror and question how they themselves participate and contribute to society, where the lives of natives have been and will always continue to be expendable. Yeah. I will make my little notes too on this. Alright. This one's called The Day I Almost Drowned. This is a bit of trauma dumping. I am sorry, but there is nobody here, so this is absolutely great. Okay. The Day I Almost Drowned. I remember the day the ocean almost swallowed me. I was 11 and curious in the shallow waters of Ala Moana Beach. Papi used to see as a babysitter for my brother and me as he got lit with a few brewskis. He thought the sun and the water would be a good and healthy time for us and keep us distracted long enough for him to drink and take a nap. But he didn't count on how curious I could be. He thought that I was 11, I had outgrown the phase where I wondered about everything. But he was wrong indeed. I remember my frustration with the ocean, mostly because I didn't know how to swim. I knew how dangerous it was for me to explore it, and knew I had to stay in shallow waters. But the waters at Ala Moana were deceptive, and I loved how I was in neck deep and could still touch the ocean floor. And I thought, a few steps further in, and I'd still be okay. But one more step, and I was under and panicking. Thought I was a goner, but my brother saw me and tried to save me, even though he barely knew how to swim. At best, he could dog paddle. But I was a bad little damsel in distress and instead dragged him further in with me, and we both would have been dead if it wasn't for the swift attention of the straight out of baitwash, caught and good-looking Hawaiian bodyguards who knew what to do and brought us back to shore. Found my Papi and yelled at him. I still wonder how CPS wasn't called. And while I was mostly okay and could have gone home, when the lifeguard asked me if he needed to call an ambulance, I said yes. Maybe it was for attention, maybe it was to spite my Papi for neglecting me. I knew how he hated unexpected bills. That one. I really like that one. So I went live for, we'll say, 7 minutes. It'll be 8 minutes. It'll be 8 minutes. Right? Yeah, okay. I think this one, we'll need a few edits as well. But this has been good. I went live. Yay.